Hey, 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 welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. I'm your host, Erik Stenholm, along with my co-host, Joey Moore. We're back for another recap, week 6, and then we're going to preview week 7. Really bizarre week of footballs in the books. The Niners and Eagles lost. The Vikings won. The Jets are back from the dead. The Browns won a epic game at home against the Niners that, I feel like Browns fans haven't had in forever. Very bizarre week. Scoring was down. I think I saw it was the lowest scoring week in the NFL since the mid 90s. Almost every game went under, including last night's Monday night game. Crazy week. We got to start at the top, though, with the Niners finally falling from the ranks of the unbeaten. Obviously, we're going to go into super in depth about the Pod Bowl coming up next Monday. That's the main story here, but we got to talk about last week first. Niners finally lost one, but more importantly, Joey, a couple injuries, key injuries with McCaffrey and Samuel. What's the latest you're hearing on the Niners, and how are you feeling heading into week 7?
First off, I think this is the first time we've done this one. Well, actually, regular season game since we've done this podcast that the Niners have lost. I think the first one,
yes,
it was the Chiefs one they lost. They just got rolled at home. But other than the NFC Championship game, it's been we've been feeling great for a long time. And we hit the skids on Sunday. Tough game. Like you said it. The biggest story is the injuries. Like, not talking about the game itself, but I mean, you lose Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey in like a quarter and a half. That's tough. I don't care if you have the scheme, have the other players around the defense they had. I mean, Cleveland's defense is no joke.
Oh yeah.
I thought they handled Myles Garrett pretty well, but the interior, Snacks Harrison, I think that's a nickname, Snacks. He was dominant. I mean, he was in the backfield all day. Like their corners are really good. I know we dropped a couple passes, but Purdy was pressured. If the numbers say he wasn't pressured as much as I thought, but I mean, it was tough. Purdy struggled with the conditions. I didn't think the conditions were like the worst I've ever seen, but he threw a pass that the arm went forward and the ball just went straight down. But yeah, the injuries are a big thing. I'm hearing that they avoided major injury to all of them. Trent came back in the game, so I wasn't too worried about that. I'm like, why would you come back in the game if you're going to not play the next week? Especially considering Cleveland, like, it was already becoming a tough game. AFC opponent, it's not, the most crucial game of the season. But the one that matters the most, I mean, is McCaffrey. I mean, he's the guy that, the 49ers last year were a pretty average football team until they traded for him. I know Purdy came on after Jimmy got hurt, but McCaffrey is the straw that stirs the drink, and I never loved the muscle injuries, the soft tissue he had. The ribs was the oblique, especially with him, with his history. Like we said, the reason why he was partly available is because he was hurt a lot, and we've been fortunate that he's been pretty darn durable, even with Kyle using him quite a bit, and we finally hit some road bumps with the injury bug, and yeah. Other than that, make the kick, Jake Moody. They'll be fine. I thought Purdy, he clearly had the worst game he's ever had in the NFL, but I give him a lot of credit for the last drive. I mean, they had Trent, but no Deebo, no McCaffrey.
I mean,
hit Juwan Jennings a couple of times.
The first 58 minutes of the game, he was fine. He was okay, and then all he had to do was that drive, and he did it. It was on.
And it wasn't like he had the attempt was a 57-yarder. It was a 41-yarder.
Yeah.
I think some people, you read some comments and be like, oh, Purdy finally turning into a pumpkin. I'm like, did you see Jalen Hurts? You see some other good players have bad games. And again, I'm not thinking he's going to win the MVP of the league.
And it was a game-winning drive.
But that's the thing. That doesn't count, but it was. Yeah. Every game is not going to be 4 touchdowns and no picks. He threw he had his horrible game is what gave his team a position to win. He threw 1 pick, 1 turnover. 2 other guys get in.
14 straight
Mahomes
regular
lost without
season.
Kelsey. Even the great ones. I don't get it. I thought it was a good thing that he was able to despite everything that happened, the pressure in his face all game, the weapons going down, and the conditions. Yeah, let him down there.
It was a lot of Juwan Jennings. He still got it done. 14 regular season pods in a row. You've come on to talk about a Niners victory. It's insane. And finally, we got a loss here.
I mean, some people. I mean, I read a couple people like, are they going to go 17-0? It's like, no, they're not. No, they're not.
Moody makes that kick. They probably lose.
And I don't like. I also too.
3 other games.
I also too like. He missed the kick. You should make it. It's what they're paid to do. But like this notion that they're going to call Robbie Gould, like Robbie Gould missed kicks. Like he hasn't missed in the play. That's his one thing he hangs his hat on. Never missed in the playoffs. Not once.
I mean, what's his range kicks. At this point? Was a game 42 yards,
Yeah, Purdy let him down against the Raiders in end of regulation. Robbie missed it.
Yeah.
He won it in overtime with like I think they got down to like the 3-yard line and they kicked one. Okay, thanks. But he misses, like you're gonna kill your kicker's confidence if like every time he misses a kick. He was perfect until today.
Yeah.
Perfect. And he missed one? Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Like,
as a Vikings fan, I know not to give up on a kicker. The Vikings gave up on Daniel Carlson like 3 weeks into his rookie season. Now he's like a Pro Bowler with the Raiders every year. Like, got to stick with Moody for at least the year.
It's not like he missed 3 kicks in a dome.
Yeah.
It was Moody.
Yeah, tough game, tough environment. Everybody talked throughout the week about how Jim Schwartz defenses do really good against Kyle Shanahan offenses. Really crazy.
He's now 8-1.
Yeah, if anybody was going to, pull it off, it was going to be Schwartz. The line on this game went from 5 when it opened down to 3.5, and then ballooned all the way to 10 because Watson was out, and then Cleveland wins outright.
That's a story.
Yeah, something is going on.
PJ Walker was not bad.
Walker wasn't bad. DTR obviously was bad the week before, but he was good in the preseason. But something's up with Watson, right?
I mean, he wasn't playing. I mean, he's never going to live up to that contract ever. But like, he wasn't coming close. And then on top of it, it's just weird shit with the injuries. Like, are you hurt or not? Like, it was widely reported. Like, it was Stefanski, right?
Yeah.
Who was like, well, the doctors cleared him.
Yeah,
that's a red flag. If he's not playing and the doctors cleared him, like, okay, what's going on? And then like the reporters, like that lady who's been like their
Mary
like,
Kay
Susan Slusser. She's like, yeah, he told me Friday he was gonna play, so I was really shocked. I'm like, she said you were gonna play, and like, what happened? Like,
that's gonna come out in the coming weeks.
PJ Walker did fine. Obviously, they made some throws. I mean. The 49ers did not lose because of the officiating. I thought it was the worst officiated game I've seen in a long time. Like, I thought the Browns' touchdown that got called back was a gift. The Niners had a strip sack that they ruled a pass. I mean, literally, if that's a pass, then
and then of course the gift hit.
I didn't think that was like I thought it was a tough call. I thought it was the wrong, but like I get it. Like that happens, bang bang. Like that's when I wish like I thought there was like there's a sky judge. Like we just like. Maybe they did. Maybe they thought it was a flag.
Yeah.
Fine. But like they called 1 to 15 yards on. They were like Cleveland number 20, like back them up 15. It was on a kick return, and like the broadcast immediately goes like that is the wrong team, like that. Like this should be like Greg Olson was like this should be on San Francisco. Like, he's like there's not even a number 20 on the field for Cleveland, and they had to huddle and they fixed it. I just like it was weird. Like the game took forever. The game started at 10 a.m. It didn't. I don't think it ended till like 1:45, close to 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I was watching Red Zone and like all of the late games had started and the only one left was the Niner game and that didn't even go into overtime. It was really
called
bizarre
so
game.
many flags, and then they would call the flag and would like talk about it and whatever. But yeah, no, Cleveland's good, really good. I mean, can you imagine what they look like if they had Nick Chubb, they had their full offensive line, and if Deshaun played like maybe $150 million quarterback instead of like a $20 million one sometimes.
I mean, they could have been really good, especially with the division being down with the way the Bengals have been playing. This could have been a good season for them. But yeah, tough loss for the Niners there. We had to start there. We'll go over the Vikings now. They've finally won one. I mean, not exactly a great performance against Chicago, winning 19-13. No Jefferson. So winning without Jefferson in a division game on the road, it's still a win. Offense was definitely not great. Defense showed up big time with a defensive touchdown, just played great the entire game. Granted, it's against Fields in the first half and undrafted rookie Tyson Bagent in the second half. But, I mean, the Vikings did enough to get there, and they've righted the ship just a tiny bit, especially in terms of defense, as they head into the Pod Bowl next Monday, which, by the way, for listeners of the pod, next Monday is the 23rd of October. The Vikings are playing the Niners. It's also the 1-year anniversary of our first episode of the pod, and it's the first time the Niners are playing the Vikings. So pretty cool coincidence there, which may lead me to pick the Vikings +7 because it's fate. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, that's going to be a bizarre one. I guess I feel okay about the Vikes heading into next week. Without Jefferson, the ceiling was never going to be that high. I thought Cousins wasn't great. I thought Osborne and Addison weren't great. I mean, Addison had the touchdown, but I only had 3 catches. Against a bad Chicago defense with their quarterback injured, we probably should have put more points up on the board. But I do feel good about Flores' defense. Like, they're ball hawking, they're blitzing all the time. It's creative. I think we have a pretty decent secondary, despite getting torched early in the season. Like, it's definitely getting better. I think the pass rush is fine. I think the linebackers are fine. It's a defense that I think, if the offense didn't put them in such shitty situations all the time, it could be top 12, top 15, which is all you can ask for when you have like a veteran good quarterback like Cousins. So we'll see how things go. We hope we get Jefferson back in 3 weeks, but we'll see. Looks like Cousins is there for the long haul. There's no way he is getting traded this season. He's not going to waive his no trade clause, as reported by Schefter. When they asked Kirk about it, he was basically like, I'm a Minnesota Viking. And I mean, as you said, business NFL Hall of Famer.
He's in the NFL Business Hall of Fame.
I mean, he knows.
He's definitely up there.
If he goes to the Jets and plays for Hackett and isn't very good, that's going to tank his stock heading into a free agent year. I think he knows, if I'm in Minnesota, Jefferson comes back, I got all these weapons. I got O'Connell.
For a guy who apparently just uses Cole's cash, he sure likes his money.
Yeah, guy is going to do well for himself, whether it's in Minnesota or elsewhere going forward. So Vikings are firmly in that win now mode, despite being 2-4. There's no way they're going to offload a lot of their assets right now. So we went from going into last week thinking, hey, the tank is on Caleb Williams, to now you really got to go for it because Cousins isn't waiving that no trade clause. So we'll get into that in a little bit when we preview the Pod Bowl. Let's go over to next week. Thursday night, we got Jacksonville at New Orleans. As Thursday night games go, this is actually a decent one. There have been some shit-ass ones in recent weeks. The Chicago-Washington one comes to mind. But you got a first-place team in Jacksonville and a team in New Orleans that's favored, given that they're at home, given that there's questions about Trevor Lawrence being injured. Jacksonville's made a statement with wins the last 2 weeks. I don't really think they're a true AFC contender, but it's a decent Thursday game, right? New Orleans minus 1.5. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's actually like a watchable one. I mean, they're all watchable. What else are you going to do? Watch the Sharks? Yeah, no, Jacksonville has sure picked it up in the last couple of weeks. After there, I thought they're a little bit of a slow start. Yeah, the Saints too. Like, the Saints defense is really, really good. So I like to see that matchup. Yeah, just looking for the Saints offense to kind of get going. I know Alvin Kamara's back. Derek Carr's not really throwing the ball down the field very much.
Carr is getting pummeled.
Yeah, he feels like his brother did when he played on the Texans, just getting rocked. But yeah, it's a really good game. Interesting to see, because the Niners they play the Jaguars in a couple weeks. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I don't really have a pick on it. I think that's going to be a really close game, especially since it's in New Orleans. The game of Sunday morning, the morning games, I'm fairly certain is Detroit at Baltimore. I mean, that's a great game right there. You got 2 first-place teams. Detroit's 5-1. Baltimore's 4-2. Baltimore really could be 6-0. Their loss against the Steelers and the loss against Indianapolis were pretty damn fluky. Despite all the injuries, they just look great in terms of defense, in terms of, the team just trying hard as hell for Harbaugh. Feel really good about the Ravens overall, but they're facing the wagon that is Dan Campbell in Detroit. Baltimore's favored by 3 at home. Lions are making their case for the NFC, like we talked about last week. I think the Ravens kind of need this one, given that, Pittsburgh is playing at the Rams, Cincinnati. Who is Cincy playing? They're actually on a bye, I believe. So, I mean, this is a game where they can kind of distance themselves. I think Cleveland's got a tough matchup at Indy as well. So, big one for Baltimore. If I had to pick on this game, I'd probably lean Detroit +3. But as we'll see later in the pick segment, I do like both offenses to do well in this spot.
Yeah, it's a really good game. It's really good because it's one of the few tests I think Detroit has all year. You would have thought Kansas City would have been one, but that's such a different team without Kelsey and Chris Jones. But still, give them credit, they won that game. And again, they played Seattle at home, like we said after that. Like you gotta win that one. They lost it. And since then they've rolled off some wins, but it's been against, I think, Carolina, Atlanta.
I was impressed with them last week at Tampa Bay, though, holding them.
Yeah, no, Tampa Bay is not a bad team. Tampa Bay is a solid team, especially at home. But this one in Baltimore, yeah, this one, I don't know about the weather in Baltimore.
You win this one to go to 6-1. Oh boy.
Like, because after that, I think the only game they have is Dallas.
At Dallas. That's about the only tough one left on their schedule. They got the Chargers
I think playing, because they play your Vikings, I think the last sandwich that Dallas game.
Yes, weeks 16 and 18.
Yeah, play a division opponent like twice in 3 weeks. You know, who knows by then what the injuries are too. But they get this to go to 6-1. Boy, they're
plus 800.
They're looking mighty good for the 1 seed. And see, the thing is, like, not only having the 1 seed, you'd get 2 home games in a Super Bowl. Like you make like the Niners and Philly play each other in the divisional round.
Yes.
Or like the Niners potentially have to play, like, say the Niners like the 3 seed, right? They play this. What if the Niners had to play at home against Dallas and then at Philly and then at Detroit?
Yeah.
That gets a lot harder. But who knows? Yeah, this is a big one for Detroit. And like you said, Baltimore needs it too.
Yeah, big game in the morning there. Lamar got to keep things going. He hasn't been like lighting up the stat sheet, but I mean, as I said before the season, all that guy does is win. 4-2, probably go 12-5, 11-6 again this year. All that guy does is win. Couple other morning games we'll get into. Cleveland at Indianapolis. Cleveland coming off that big win against the Niners. Indy's got to bounce back to try to sneak into the playoff race after losing at Jacksonville last week. One thing I wanted to talk about here is Anthony Richardson. A lot of reports that he's going to shut it down already. Like,
that's not good.
It is not good. I mean, literally 3 weeks ago, we were like, Richardson or Stroud? Who is the better quarterback out of this class? Now it's like, okay, Stroud is a big win.
You know what I love to like? You know what I think I love about this podcast is I think we like to admit when we're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have been wrong about CJ Stroud because he's playing lights out.
So good. We were way off. And I think we were right about Richardson in that, yes, he's extremely talented and a very good football player, but he left injured.
I never would have thought
he'd be the
guy out for the year after week 5 or 6 with how big he is.
Yeah. And of course, you know, Bryce Young's doing just fine health-wise, which I mean, his team's 0-6, but you know, he's doing okay. Yeah, I thought that was we'll probably see something similar to this with Watson, but the way Irsay talked about it, the way the media is talking about it is like, it's one that, you know, if they're a playoff contender and he's a veteran quarterback and he already has a pretty good deal, he probably would play through it. But because he's a rookie on a rookie deal, he doesn't want to jeopardize his future. He's shutting it down. Something to keep an eye on there in Indianapolis, because looking at what Steichen was doing, that team could have made the playoffs this year. They could have snuck in as a 7 seed. I thought Richardson was very dynamic. Now it's the Minshew show for the rest of the year. Tough spot there. Cleveland's favored by 2 at Indianapolis. Oh, now there's an idea. There's no way he's going to the Jets.
Indiana to Minnesota.
There's no way he's going to the Jets. No way he's going to Pittsburgh.
I see where I was wrong about the Jets, because we said like maybe Kirk to the Jets after they beat Philly.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, I think Zach Wilson deserves a little credit. Like, he's not great, but like, I think a lot of people would have absolutely quit. Like with how he used the media and everything, like some of the things he said, like, you know, to the media about like, you know, oh, whatever, I did fine. My team sucks. Whatever he said last year. Like, I think him, Salah, I think, you know, obviously they have a really good defense, but yeah, anyways, I'm going to talk about the Jets, but yeah, I think Kirk to Indy makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they got the cap space. It would make some sense. He's a definite huge upgrade over Minshew if they actually are serious about making the playoffs, but I don't think Kirk's going anywhere.
I think the Colts might just say, no, we're fine getting another top pick, potentially.
Yeah, they weren't going to win the Super Bowl this year anyway. I think they're trying to build something there around Richardson, but very suspect start to his career with him being injured in 3 of his 5 starts and then going on IR after a shoulder injury so quick. So Atlanta at Tampa Bay. I mean, decent game. My only note here is which of these two is going to enter that 2-horse race with New Orleans for the NFC South, because at some point it's going to be whittled down to 2. Obviously, Carolina's out of it. I think Atlanta is just this tough team to figure out what the hell they are, because one week they look great. They run the ball like crazy. Ritter looks competent. And then the next week, oh my God, was he bad in that Washington game. Like 2 of the worst picks of the entire season by any quarterback. Washington tried to let them back in the game 3 or 4 times. And I mean, that one in the end zone to end the game that he threw off his back foot, like one of the worst throws I've ever seen in the NFL. And you certainly see Arthur Smith on the sideline being like, what am I doing with this guy? Like, tough situation. Atlanta's at Tampa minus 2.5. I kind of think, I mean, if I was to bet on this game, it would be Tampa, just because it's a veteran roster and Ritter on the road doesn't sound like a good idea. But any thoughts on that game?
I would lean Tampa.
Yeah.
I think Tampa's solid. I think they're solid. Like, I think they kind of know who they are. Baker's playing way more consistently than Desmond Ritter. Yeah, games in Tampa. I think Tampa's got a decent run defense, which if you can stop the run against Atlanta, good night.
We got the Raiders at Chicago. Raiders are favored by 3. Looks
barn
like
burner.
Fields, yeah, real freaking barn burner there. Looks like Fields going to miss the game, so it's going to be Tyson Bagent. That's why even the lowly Raiders are minus 3 at Chicago. Could be Hoyer in this game. Could be O'Connell. Jimmy G, we hope he's okay. Had a back injury. Had to go to the hospital during that game last week, but they did win against New England, just barely covering. 2 dumpster fire teams. I mean, 2, I think, dead coaches walking. I don't see how either Eberflus or McDaniels is coaching those teams next season, despite the Raiders being 3-3 and hell, maybe being 4-3 after winning this game. Pretty crummy game. We'll skip that one. We'll move on to Buffalo at New England. Buffalo's minus 8.5. Yeah, we're like, who cares? We'll go to Buffalo and New England. Buffalo's favored by 8.5. My note here was how low can the Pats go? I mean, this is, last week's game, Mac Jones is just, I mean, that pick he threw in the first half when they were driving, again, one of the worst throws you could ever imagine. The quarterback play around the league is down, but he is more down than any other player in the league, because he went to the playoffs 2 years ago and was a Pro Bowler, and now he is just an abject disaster. Like, how bad can this New England team be? Like, does Belichick coach out the season if they go like 1-16? This shit is nuts.
So I said I like this podcast because we like to admit when we're wrong. You're like, hey, but I also like to admit when I'm right. And this Patriots team sucks ass. Like, sucks. And I'll say it, their coaching staff sucks. Bill, it's getting real sus. The whole thing. Just I wouldn't be surprised if they fired him. Like, people are saying the idea that you can't fire him, I think is crap.
Yeah, anybody can be fired, anybody can be traded. Tom
Brady. If you don't own the team, you can be fired.
Yeah.
If you don't own the team, you can be fired. Like, because Kraft was super close with Brady. And he had to fight Bill on keeping Brady because Bill wanted to move on way earlier. Like, he's like, I like Jimmy. Like, you imagine what Bill's career looks like if he would have moved on from Brady for Jimmy Garoppolo. Because if I'm Robert Kraft, all I see right now is like Brady gone, like, all the coaches that have left, like, and just sucked. I'm thinking about all the Spygate, all the cheating stuff. Like honestly, were we ever good? Was it just Tom Brady? Like, I mean, really thinking about it.
Basically, I would say from like maybe 04 on, it was like all Brady. Yes, those 01 and 03 teams were Bill Belichick's defense for sure. But I mean, man.
But even those defenses, though, like we say he's a defensive guy, right? They had a lot of Hall of Famers on that defense. And like, was it the scheme? I mean, I'm not trying to say this guy doesn't know anything about football. I'm really not. But
he's won 8 Super Bowls, including his 2 as defensive coordinator. When he was defensive coordinator, he had Lawrence
Jimmy
Taylor.
Garoppolo's a 2-time Super Bowl champion.
No.
No
But
one
I'm
cares.
saying he had Lawrence Taylor on his defense when he was a defensive coordinator. He had Tom Brady on his offense when he was the head coach. So he's never won a thing without like the best player in the world on his team.
He reminds me so much of like if Phil Jackson didn't coach like Michael or Kobe. Like maybe not, but the thing is like we don't know, right? So we get to just be like, well, he is a good coach. Well, the thing that sucks for Bill is we found out. And this team, like you're a defensive guy and you're just giving up like 34 to the Saints at home, whatever it was. Defensive guy, like, okay, fine, Dallas, right? You know, they're not terrible, but like it's ugly. It's so bad. And it's
so bad that we're not even talking about how shitty Buffalo was on Sunday Night Football, and they're going into New England. Their offense was atrocious in that game, and we're like, how many are they going to drop on Bill Belichick this week? Like, it's insane how low the Patriots have gone. Literally 4 years ago, they're the number one franchise in sports in terms of consistent greatness. And now they are just, I mean, they got to be in the bottom five in the NFL.
They make me think of like the San Antonio Spurs with Popovich. Because like ever since, you know, they had the crew, David Robinson, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, Ginobili. And then after that, they had like Kawhi for that run, that 1 year, and it's like up until this year, I guess they got that like guy from France, Wemby, whatever the heck his name is. But like since then, they got nothing but kind of average, and they're like, I haven't thought about this. I mean, I'm not a basketball guy, but like the Spurs have been pretty irrelevant, right?
Yeah, for like 5 years.
Exactly. And I feel like just maybe more eyeballs on football, and like the Patriots were like with Brady and Belichick. Like, are we just like, I don't know. If I was Kraft, I would fire him. Like, I don't know if I'd fire him mid-season because, like, what's the point? Like, why? But like, I would, because he's the GM too. It's like that's the thing. They're the worst. They could be the worst roster, and just worse. Like, no one's getting any better.
Yeah, there's no players on that team that you're like, oh, that guy's a stud that aren't hurt. Judon and Gonzalez are both really good players, but they're both out for the season. It's like you watch that team play, you're like, literally no one on this team is good. Not even Stevenson. And at one point he was good last year. He looks like
I don't know if you can like coach up defensive players like you can with like offensive players, especially quarterbacks, which is why I just think if I was an owner, I would never hire somebody that wasn't an offensive guy. Like again, we talk about it with the Shanahan tree. Like Baker Mayfield was a Ram for like a second, and it was like, wow, this guy's pretty good. And it's like, yeah, we talk about Tua. No one wanted Tua until Mike McDaniel said, "You're enough, bud." And now he's potential MVP guy. And you know, you look at other guys, and even Josh McDaniels, Mr. Offensive Guy. Their offense sucks. Like you wanted Jimmy, he's your guy. You have good players.
Yeah,
like Devontae's arguably still best receiver. Like Josh Jacobs was the rusher, the rushing champ last year. Like, you know, you drafted at the tight end Michael Mayer, you know, decently high. I mean, Hunter Renfrow was like the next Cooper Kupp before he just evaporated for some reason. You had Darren Waller. I know you traded him, but I don't know. And that's my TED Talk on the Patriots.
Yeah, you had them going like 3-14 before the season. I think I had them at 7-10, and you were like, no, this team is atrocious. And I was like, Belichick. No, they fucking suck. They're absolutely awful. You called that one. We'll skip the Washington-New York game, although I do think New York catching 2 points at home, getting a little healthier. That might be something I look at later in the pod. Let's skip ahead to the 125 games. We got Chargers at Kansas City. Kansas City's favored by 6. This is a sneaky elite game. Kansas City coming in off extra rest after playing on Thursday Night Football, and the Chargers playing on Monday night. So big advantage there for KC. Interesting game here. A lot of points scored, right?
I think this is a really interesting game because obviously Chiefs are really good. We know all about them, and they kind of have been a little bit of the bully to pretty much everyone in that division. But I didn't really watch too much of the game last night because work blew up. But we talk about like Jimmy and some of these other guys, like, oh, he's a winner, like QB's a win, like wins are a QB stat. Like I might be moving towards the camp of like, is Justin Herbert like going to win a game like that people are watching? Like, I know we have Brandon Staley, but like, if I'm going to go on here and everyone like say Dak is ass, And like, I know that's a home game for Dallas. I get it. But like, you had Kellen Moore. Dallas fired you. Like, you have Justin Herbert, who's anyone with half a brain would take miles over Dak Prescott. But it's like, then you start thinking about the playoff game last year, and it's just like I have no confidence that they're actually going to win the game.
He's another
he
one
ends
of those.
The game last time with a pick. Like,
the advanced stats say he's incredible, but the eye test says, hey, this guy is just, I mean, cannon for an arm, appears to be a good dude and a good leader, but I mean, you got to win. Like, yes, Jimmy throws warbly ducks over the middle all the time, but for whatever reason, he always wins. You know, Lamar Jackson, sometimes you'll have a hideous game. He'll go like 10 for 22 for 89 yards, but he'll run the ball 13 times for 120 and a touchdown and win the game. Like, Justin, you've got the talent. You know, you've got receivers, you've got Eckler, you've got an elite defense in terms of like roster. It's like, got to get it done at some point.
It's like, I think he had a game they lost. It like, it's hard. I go back and forth. I think they had a game they lost this year, right? Or maybe it was the Minnesota game that they pulled out. But he was like 40 of 47 for like 450 and like,
yeah, that was the Viking game.
Like astronomical numbers. Like you have all those numbers. Like you damn near lost.
Yeah,
like
we should have won. We had the ball
like
on the 3-yard line with like 20 seconds.
Exactly, left. And I'm just like, do I blame him? Like, what is he supposed to go? Like 46 of 47 for 600? Like, what's he? But still, I'm just like, why do the Chargers not win more? Maybe the answer is the Chargers have always kind of had that about him as a franchise. Maybe it's not him.
It's been a long time. I mean,
but I'm just
going
like,
back to Rivers, it was always like that. The Chargers can't win or lose by more than like 4 points.
Like, why? Yeah, I was just about to say, why does every game look the same?
Mm-hmm. For years too. It's not like it's just this season or last season. Like, it's been his entire career, and then
they
Rivers
opened up
before
with
that.
Miami at home, I think, and they ended up losing. But you go toe to toe with that offense, and it's like, okay. And then Dallas comes, like, okay, Dallas, like, you should be able to put up points on Dallas, and it's like, okay, they
17 points,
grinded up for 17 home. Anyways, but yeah, no, big game, but I think the Chiefs roll.
Yeah,
I think they cover. I think probably like a 30-23 game.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think the over-under set at 51.5. That makes a ton of sense. Rams -3 hosting Pittsburgh. So this is two elite coaches with, I would say, compromised rosters, to be kind. I was watching the Rams game last week against Arizona, and man, is that defense no name. I mean, it's Aaron Donald and a bunch of scrubs. And I mean, they were letting Arizona kind of manhandle them. They did end up running away with the game, but at least early, you know, you're seeing that not even James Conner on the field, just backup running backs running right through that that defensive line for New Orleans. So, or I'm sorry, for Los Angeles. But looking at this game, it's Rams -3, and my thought was, okay, I want to bet the Rams here, even though the Steelers are off the bye, because the Rams are at home. Yes, I know there will be a lot of Steelers fans there, but McVay's just great, and Stafford's great, and Kupp's great, and Nakua's great. I mean, the team is really good. I don't see why they can't at least be competitive in this game, especially with how shitty Pittsburgh's offense is. But I can't touch this just because Tomlin off a bye.
If they don't have a right tackle, TJ Watt is going to wreck the game.
Yeah, and they haven't for a lot of the year. You know, you basically called it. The games where their offensive line had injuries, they get crushed or they lose a close one. The games where their offensive line holds up, they win and they cover. So if that, I think his name is Noteboom. If he goes out of the game, oh my God, every time he goes out of the game, it's like all of a sudden Stafford is on his back like the next 7 plays in a row. So I want to bet the Rams there, but I'm going to end up staying away just because I feel like that's risky with Tomlin off a bye. One game we got to talk about here, Green Bay -1.5 at Denver. Sean Payton firing watch. We'll see. LaFleur is coaching for his boy Nathaniel Hackett here. I really like Green Bay in this spot, even though Denver's, you know, coming off a little bit of extra rest playing on Thursday Night Football. Oh boy. I mean, LaFleur, you know, he wants to win this one because of the whole Hackett situation. I mean, those guys are close. You know, I feel like everyone around the league feels motivation to go into Denver and beat Sean Payton and be like, hey, the league has passed you by. He did.
Like, more than anything, like, he broke the code.
I like Green Bay to lay the beat down this week.
Like, if it was like not on TV or like somehow like, I don't know. Like, I think it rubbed everyone, and rightfully so, all the coaches rubbed them the wrong way. Like, you're on Fox and you just like up on your like little perch there and you just say the worst coaching job like in the history of football. And like, I don't know about that. Bud. And then like you sign this huge deal, like probably get paid more than pretty much everybody. Come in there, and I just laugh because their whole like Russell Wilson thing, like, oh, we're gonna come in and bring in a dictator. I'm like, Sean Payton does the same things Russ does. He's just the boss. Like Russ is like, I'm coming in. We're doing it my way. I want more throws. I want to cook. Right? Let Russ cook. Let's ride.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sean's like, you sit the hell down. We're gonna have no bucket hats. There's gonna be no fun in here. We'll do it my way. And it's like,
you're 1-5. Great job.
And I just. That one is so interesting because, like, I think Sean Payton is more or less likely to be fired than Bill, just because, like, that would be admitting like just a royal failure, like quickly. But I don't know. This is why I could be a terrible like sports like executive or owner because I'd be so emotional. I'd be like, especially if I had unlimited cash like the Walmart family, like it's be like, you're done, man. Go home. I'd fire him. I'd be so disgusted.
It's the whole thing where the locker room is turned and the league is turned against him like that quickly. You're like, man, this is a toxic situation already.
As for the game, I think the Packers maybe eke one out. Last couple times I've watched Jordan Love, it's been rough.
Packers coming off a bye. I'm thinking I'm leaning that way for sure. Arizona at Seattle. Seattle's favored by 7. I don't know if you caught a lot of that Seahawks-Bengals game. Seahawks should have won that one going away. The Bengals were.
I saw highlights, and it was on the same time as the Niners, so I was locked into this L we took.
It was. I believe the Seahawks got to the red zone 8 times and got 13 points. Like insane. There were turnovers. There was, I think, 3 turnover on downs. Seahawks should have won that one. If you're someone who bet like we did, the Seahawks win total over for the season, you're like, God, that's a huge loss right there. So I feel like they got to lay the.
Say I was upset about it, but
Niners fans loving it. The Seahawks dropping to 3-2. They could have been 4-1 and only a half game back of you guys after the events of last Sunday. But I think the Seahawks got to lay the beat down against Arizona. It's in Seattle. They're favored by 7.
Have to win it.
Yeah, if you want to keep pace with the Niners, and
I mean, you just make if they lose that, they're what, 3-4?
They lose that one, they'd be 3-3, and
exactly.
I mean, you cannot lose at home against Arizona, especially coming off of that disappointment.
That'd be 2 home losses in the division to teams that aren't the Niners.
Yeah, they got to have that one. I think Seahawks winning big there is in the cards.
Yeah, I think they win by like 14.
Yeah, that should be a cover for them. And then Sunday Night Football. Game of the week, probably game of the year so far. Could be a Super Bowl preview. I don't think it's that crazy to say Miami at Philadelphia. Philly -2. If anything, I would look at Philly here just given the spot. I feel like after last week's loss, they are just going to be pissed. I think we've seen Miami at home is freaking unstoppable. Miami on the road, I mean, they got beaten down by Buffalo, who really hasn't done much since. So I'm a little worried about, catching 2 points with Miami. If I had to bet this one, I'd probably lean Philly. What do you think?
I have such a soft spot for Miami. I just immediately want to be like Miami. But Philly at night,
tough place to play.
That's tough. And exactly, they're coming out pissed. Like
they might push the first 15 plays.
They might get a touchdown if they do that. Yeah, it's a really good game. The last time we kind of saw Miami in a big spot, they got just dog walked by Buffalo. But yeah, I don't think the Philly defense in the back end is as good as it was last year.
Mm-hmm.
Their front is really good. But I think Tua and Miami and McDaniel, they get the ball out so quick. They make you play the entire, they make you play all the grass hairs out there.
The square footage.
Yeah. And we'll see, but that's a tough place to play.
A lot of teams around the league are copying what McDaniel's doing in Miami.
Kyle does it. It's like immediately
man.
like, oh, we never used to do that. Where'd they get that from? Oh, his buddy.
Yeah. The Chargers yesterday, they sent a receiver who's on, let's say it's Keenan Allen. He's on the right side of the lineup. He will then go in motion to the right.
Yeah, I love that. It's just like it honestly, it looks like a glitch.
Yeah, you see it and you're like, McDaniel. Everybody's like, saw him do
I love
it with
what the Niners doing. It's use check and someone follows him and like everyone, I'm on my couch like, why does that even fall? They don't throw the ball. Like, they just totally just like chess pieces. Like, oh, we're going to move this linebacker out of here. And then we're going to run McCaffrey on a slant. It's going to hit that open space. And you're like, why isn't McCaffrey open? Well, this linebacker followed Juszczyk out wide like he's TO.
And the Vikings coach McConnell from that same Shanahan-McVay tree, he does that all the time with Jefferson early in the season, especially. It's like, how is Jefferson open? They should be double or triple covering him. It's like, well, they sent 3 guys in motion before the play, and no one had any idea where anyone was going. They went to go double cover Jefferson, and he wasn't even there. And they're like, where the fuck did he go? Like, I
think that's such a good like quality to have. Like, if you are any of those coaches, so like, you know, Shanahan, McVay, Stefanski, any of these guys copying, because like these guys, they're so like prideful in their schemes and everything. Like, they don't look like the guy just copying the homework off somebody. Like, oh, dude, if it works, I don't care. And like, that's the thing. Like, does Belichick do that? Like, I don't want to bring everything back to Bill, but like, do you even think about doing that? Like, is that could you even do that? I don't know. But
so,
yeah,
we're going to do our power rankings here in a second, but let's do the Pod Bowl preview before we get to the power rankings. First time we thought it was going to happen was last year for the playoffs. It ended up not happening when we lost to the Giants, but Vikings-Niners, they're finally playing Monday Night Football, big game next week. I'll come at it from the Vikings side. I think this is a great time to be catching the Niners. Back-to-back road games. McCaffrey may not play. Samuel may not play. I'm definitely leaning towards the Vikings if I had to bet this one. Right now it's Niners -7. Obviously, you know, those first drives are a killer with the Niners. Every time Kyle gets to script, it's like, man, it's a guaranteed 7 on that first drive of the game. So when I'm watching,
I don't want to interrupt, but yeah, it was funny. Like, Cleveland #1 defense. Early, I think I texted my dad. I was like, sick #1 defense, Cleveland. They went right down there. Like, screw you, Jim Swartz, like touchdown. Then the rest of the game was like, what the hell?
Nobody in the league is
that
better.
Like, yeah, and I just like, it's because I don't like getting the ball first as a fan. Like, I'm like, I want to kick. I want the second half, because you usually get like the double up. You get the end of the first half and you get the ball again. But it is like, if the other team wins the toss, kicks it, and you'd run it right down their throat, touchdown, it's like, oh shit, like we're down. Like, we got to score.
And you've done that, what, 4 out of the 6 games this year? Where,
like yeah.
I mean, they're the best
Pittsburgh,
at it.
We did it. Rams, we did it. We did not do it. The Giants got a field goal. Did it last week, and then I think did it Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and Arizona. So yeah,
5 out of 6.
Yeah.
It's insane. They're unstoppable. So it's like, for me as a Vikings fan, especially having an appreciation for what Flores has brought to the team, the first Niner drive of the game, if we hold you to a field goal, or God help us if you punt or we get a turnover, I'll be like, oh shit, game on. If you just march right down the field like every other time, I'm going to be like, we can't keep up with that kind of offense with Jefferson out. So from a Vikings point of view, that's what I'm going to be looking at, is how our defense holds up against, you know, an albeit depleted Niner offense early on in the game. When you go into a game like this where you're like, hey, we're playing an inferior opponent, but it is on the road, we're missing some guys, what do you look for as a fan early on?
Well, I'll be specifically for this game. I'm very interested to see. I think it's actually, I don't know what the over/under is. I think it's gonna be a low-scoring game.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, despite I'm not, even if the Niners are healthy, I think Minnesota is one of the toughest places to play. Monday Night Football is a big deal. Mm-hmm. Purdy hasn't been in too many situations like that.
Over/under set at 44. That is a relatively low number, but I mean, yeah,
like
23-17.
NFC Championship game is really it. Mm-hmm. I mean, because like he played last year, I remember in Seattle, Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, but Thursday night last year was hostile, and he did well. But this time, especially if any of those guys are missing, especially if it's Trent Williams, which I think he'd be the less likely, because again, he went back to the game. But Brian Flores has been blitzing quite a bit. I don't know. It's not Wink Martindale what he did to the Niners, like every freaking play. But this one's going to be on the road in a tough environment. If there's a couple guys out, how does Purdy handle it? Especially if McCaffrey, because Debo's that, you know, here comes the screen where you're like, oh, I could throw that pass and get a 60-yard touchdown because Debo breaks 4 tackles. It's like, well, if he's not there, and then the other guy, especially if McCaffrey doesn't play, he's the, you know, angle route, Texas route, flat guy, like slant. And it's like he's the, you know, escape outlet for Purdy. And if he's not there, like, I'm super high on Jordan Mason. I loved him as their, I guess, essentially now RB2 because Mitchell played or was healthy for Cleveland, but Mason was. I really like him. He's not
running so well.
He's not a pass catching guy as much, nearly. I mean, obviously as much as McCaffrey, but so I think that'll keep the Niners down. And I just, especially without Jefferson, I don't think Minnesota is going to be able to move the ball that much without him. I think they'll. I think it's like a 26-20 game. I think it's 23-17, something like that. I think the Niners do win, but I think it's going to be tough to score for either team.
Yeah, for me, I'm looking at the Vikings schedule after they play this game. They go at Green Bay, at Atlanta, home New Orleans, at Denver, home Chicago, at the Raiders, Cincinnati, and then Detroit, Green Bay, Detroit to end the season. So it's like not exactly a gauntlet. This is definitely the hardest game for the rest of the season, in my opinion.
Like you said, if those guys don't play, it's on like Donkey Kong.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a big one. I mean, we've been talking about it for a year now. Every time that there's a chance that the Niners are going to play the Vikings, we're like, hey, here it comes, the big moment. So we'll see how it goes. I do have, some hope that because we're catching you off a loss, back-to-back road games where they got to travel to the Central Time Zone.
The extra day helps.
Yeah, I feel, and Vikings, I feel like we got a shot here if, say, McCaffrey and Williams and Debo are all active and not showing any hitch in the giddy up. Could be a route, but we'll see when we get there on Monday. Before we get to your Jack and the Bum of the Week, let's do a quick power rankings. We're going official power rankings now. We did some before the season, early in the season, after early impressions. We're 6 weeks in now. We can start ranking these teams into Super Bowl contention tiers. For me, I'll just go with my top 5 off the bat. We're going to go Niners number 1, Chiefs number 2, Philly number 3. I'll go Miami number 4, and then that 5th slot is really tough for me between Detroit, who I think has a case to be there, and then Buffalo, who they're hit or miss. So I'm going to go Detroit number 5.
Wow, pretty close. I have the Niners still number 1, although it's hard to put a team number 1 after a loss, but I think that was about as good of a loss as you can have. Being it on a missed makeable kick, injuries piling up. I'm not worried. I got them 1. I got the Chiefs 2. I have Detroit 3. Ooh. I think Detroit's really good. I think Detroit is really good. And then I'd have Philly 4 and Miami 5.
Yeah, we're high on Miami here. I think we're very low on Cincinnati on this podcast. I see a lot of people still showing some hope in them. Someone was talking on the Bill Simmons pod last week about can you believe Cincinnati's now 30-1 to win the Super Bowl? They were 7-1 before the season. I'm like, yeah. Do you watch the games? They're not good. Burrow
we have
is
new
very
information.
Good. We've watched for 6 weeks and they probably should be 1-5. They should have lost the Ram game. They should have lost the Seahawks game, and they did lose the other ones. The only team that they resoundingly beat was Arizona, and they're terrible. Tough situation there for Cincinnati. So they definitely don't crack my list. And then you don't have Buffalo on your list. I don't either. I think they're somewhere up there, but man, these last 2 weeks, they've just been so sus, just especially on offense. The game in London was awful. And then
I get the game in London. I really do. It's traveling all that way. I think they showed up Friday, the body clock. I mean, the Jaguars are a good team, but maybe they were still feeling the effects of London against the Giants, but I don't think so.
You can't score.
Come home Sunday night against the Giants and struggle to score.
They scored 14. No points in the first 3 quarters. What the hell was that?
They're just, I don't know what I'm going to get with them any week. You can convince me that they're going to drop 40 on somebody in the first half. Or you can tell me Josh Allen throws 2 picks and a fumble in the first half and they're down 24-3. So an average team.
Yeah. That game against Miami threw a lot of people off the scent. You were super anti-Buffalo before the season, and then they beat Miami and you're like, wow, I was wrong. No, last 2 weeks.
Maybe I wasn't.
Yeah. They've been super sus the last couple games. We'll see where Buffalo goes from here. Let's go over to your Jack and the Bum of the Week. We just did our power rankings. Let's go over to this. A lot of candidates, as always. For me, Hurts was at the top of the list. That pick that he threw when it was, I believe, 3rd and 9 late in the game, just trying to run out the clock. Huge moment in the Philadelphia season. They're down from the ranks of the unbeaten solely because of that throw. I mean, they really should have won that game and probably should have won it going away. A lot of turnovers for him in that one. I believe it was his first 4-turnover game in the NFL. So Hurts has to be on the list. Your boy Jake Moody, I mean, he has to be on the list. 41-yarder.
He could have been the choice. Maybe I gave a little homer discount to him. I just think he missed one kick. Well, actually, technically, he missed two, but the other one was like a 54-yarder earlier in the game. Only 2 misses he's missed all year. This is my first. I'll give him one game. He does that shit again, he's on the list.
Instant jack in the bum if he does it again. But yeah, missing a 41-yarder to keep the team undefeated had to be on the list. Sean Payton will always be on the list every week. Like,
you just copy and paste in each week.
They had no points through 3 quarters as well on Thursday Night Football. Got a garbage time touchdown and 2-point conversion to make it 19-8. Woohoo! Good job. And then Desmond Ridder. I mean, again, I had to put him on the list. He had 2 of the worst throws that I've ever seen. I said that earlier in the pod, but like, in case you haven't watched, because who the hell would have watched Atlanta versus Washington in the first place other than a psycho football fan like myself? Watch the highlights of that game and watch Ritter's 2 picks. Like, if you come away from that thinking that guy can start a playoff game, I don't know what to tell you. Like, that guy is awful. But you're going in another direction for Jack and the Bum of the Week, a guy who didn't exactly acquit himself well in prime time last week.
Nope. As always, great candidates. You make a strong case for Jalen Hurts. Kind of like Jake Moody. I'm going to give him a game. I'm not going to quickly just throw him into the bus. He's earned that. But again, he does that again. He will be the Jack and the Bum of the Week. But this week, we're gonna go back to that Buffalo New York Giants game. And I don't like doing this either to guys who are backups, but the Jack and the Bum of the Week this week is Tyrod Taylor. And Brian Daboll, I think, would agree with me with how pissed off he was at Tyrod Taylor for his check at the line of scrimmage to a run play with no timeouts and no time on the clock, and it super cost them because they would have been in range to kick a game-winning field goal at the end, or tying. I forgot. I think it would be the game winner.
Yeah, they ended up losing 14 to what was it? 9. But of course, they were ahead 6-0 at that point at the end of the first half. 12 seconds left. Yeah. Ball on the 1. He checks to a run. The clock runs out. Not only do they not get the 3 points, they get nothing. And man, was Daboll hot.
Which I don't blame him, because like, you're backup quarterback, you kind of got to hang your hat on like being smart, like savvy, know where to be, know all the plays, all that stuff. And it's like, to do that, I mean, I guess maybe he goes back to Daboll and is like, I was super convicted in what I saw. Like, I saw this guy, he was going to shoot this gap, and like thought we could hit him here, whatever. But I guess you're a genius if you're right, and if you're not, you're on Joey's Jack and the Bum of the Week. But I thought also terrible was I text you his decision to run with 9 seconds left at the end of the game. Like, granted, he got out of bounds. He was running. My eyes were just like if you don't get out of bounds, like you're not gonna be on this bus back.
He started running straight, and
I know.
We were like, what?
I'm like, he's gonna do it again. He's gonna do it again. Oh my! I was like, and like, luckily he got out of bounds. I'm like. Sadly, just for the chaos, I wanted him to either be tackled in bounds or run out of bounds and then like look up and there's no time left because he ran too far. Because he could have got 2. Well, it would have been 3 with a penalty shots at the end zone. Instead, you only get the 1 and then the flag. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought it was just crazy to.
I mean, that's a season-altering game for them. If they win that one in Buffalo on Sunday night without Daniel Jones, in like one of the worst seasons for the Giants in recent memory, that could alter the season big time. Especially with, I think they have a pretty easy schedule coming up. I think they got Chicago and Washington, and then Washington again. You win that game, you're not necessarily back in it, but your season is like okay. Now you're toast. I mean, you're completely toast. Like, Tyrod, what are you doing, man? 2 bonehead plays.
Yeah. I was hoping to get tackled in bounds.
That would have
been like, because I just hear like Tariq Collinsworth being like, "Oh boy."
Yeah, Collinsworth. Oh no! Oh no, Mike! No!
Let me just plug in my PFF Next Gen stats that had a 0% chance of working.
Yeah, Amazon Web Services said that had a 0% chance of doing anything but fucking this game up. Okay, so that's Joey's Jack and the Bum of the Week, Tyrod Taylor. Sorry, Tyrod. I know this is your first time starting in quite a while, but
I know, I don't
two
feel good. I
bonehead
don't
plays.
feel good about it.
It has to be. I still think Jacoby Myers holds the all-time record for biggest Jack and the Bum of the Week for that play last year. But Tyrod nowhere near that. He's not an upper echelon bum, just a run-of-the-mill week 6 in the NFL.
I mean, I got to be honest. Wasn't like the best week I've seen for bum candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was some, like I really could have. Probably should have gone with Jalen Hurts because he played way more bummy than Tyrod Taylor did.
Yeah, considering expectation for sure. Like you can't lose to the Jets if you're trying to win the Super Bowl. But
you talk about Ritter's picks. I mean that one, Jalen Hurts.
That is right up there. I mean, it was one of those where you're
one of those like you reevaluate. Like what are you looking at? Jalen?
Yeah, what did he see? Because he was throwing it to Goddard, and it could have been picked by 2 different guys.
I love that. Like, this guy so-and-so throws into Jimmy Garoppolo throws into a defensive team meeting, and it's just like, that could have been picked off. Oh, this guy picks it off. There's a guy running right behind him, and it's like,
All right, let's go to my You Like That picks of the week. We went 4-1 last week, man. We are on fire, 17, 11, and 2 so far in 2023. Just want to bring it up here. If you blindly bet all of our You Like That picks this year instead of investing in the S&P 500, that would have been a good move because this year we're up 44% return on investment. The S&P is only up 7%. So if you're a wise investor, you listen to this podcast. So I just want to bring that up. Let's go to an ugly slate this week. We got 5 picks for you. This was scouring the bottom of the barrel. Usually there's like 3 or 4 games that really jump out to me where I go, hey, that line is way wrong. Like that makes no sense. This week, I mean, it was tough. I've had to go with 2 totals just to fill out the requirement for 5 picks. Buffalo going to New England. Both those teams' offenses have looked like absolute dog shit the last 2 weeks. The total's 42.5. I'm going under there. That's just a play on, hey, Mac Jones has been bad. Buffalo's offense has been bad for 2 weeks. Let's go on the under there. Belichick has any hope of having any respect for himself the rest of the season. He's just going to hang his hat on defense and turn it into a knockdown slugfest. Detroit, Baltimore, I'm going over 42. I think both these teams' defenses have been a little bit better than they actually are so far through the season. I think they've gotten a little bit lucky. When I saw this total was 42 for 2 teams with dynamic weapons, good quarterbacks, injuries on defense. You saw Detroit's starting corner tore his ACL. He tore his left ACL after coming back from a right ACL tear. Devastating. That really hurt.
Manny Mosley.
Oh, really, really hurt.
He's a good player. He's a really good player.
Good player, unfortunate to see, but with him out, with a lot of those Baltimore defenders out, I'm going to go over the very low total of 42 there in that game. So that's my second bet. Here's where you got to hold your nose and just be like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I really kind of like the Giants +2 at home coming off of last week. Daniel Jones is supposed to be back. Saquon Barkley looked fully healthy to me last week. Washington, I mean, yes, they won, but they played Atlanta. They were competitive against Philly, but in their other 3 games, they've been absolutely awful. I kind of feel like this is a good spot at home for the Giants here. I'm willing to be talked off of it, though. Like Giants +2 at home.
I think if you know what's going on here, like put your hand down. You're lying. I think it's a big game for Ron Rivera. I think.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you lose,
he might. I don't know what the odds are for a first coach to be fired. He might be number 1.
I think he's second behind Eberflus, but it's close. I think they're both about the same right now.
The thing is, Washington has talent. Eberflus beat Rivera.
Yeah, by a lot too. Like
at
he
home.
whooped him. Yeah,
it was in Washington.
Yeah, if that one didn't get Rivera fired, I don't know if this one will either.
He's one of those guys, like, are you culture guy? Like your demons there, like your culture. Maybe it's just the owner thing, but like seems all over the place. Every time he talks to the media, I'm like, what did you say? Like, huh?
Yeah, he's not going to be the coach there next year. The owner's going to definitely swap him out. I think
I read something crazy that they're going to go after Belichick.
Oh, I did too, because there's kind of that new owner. I have unlimited money.
I got Bill. It's like
great idea. Yeah, even if you get like Caleb Williams or Drake May, I'm not sure I want Bill Belichick and that staff coaching him. One more pick. Actually, we got 2 more. Green Bay -1 at Denver. pretty crazy that Green Bay's favored on the road at Denver. Before the season, I think Denver probably would have been favored by at least 3 points in this game. But the way Denver's just been playing like shit the entire season, the motivation that LaFleur has to beat Sean Payton, I'm going Green Bay there. And then here's the crazy one. I can be talked off of this one too. Vikings +7. I think getting the Vikings at home with 7 points on Monday Night Football in a game they have to have. Before the season, this probably would have been Niners -3, -3.5. I think, the Jefferson injury obviously has a big effect here. But if I'm getting 7 points against a non-full strength Niner team, I'm thinking about Minnesota. So looking at that list of picks, anything that you don't like?
I'd love to know if that line is that factoring in those players do play or don't play? Like, I wonder, because I feel like if they don't play, I would put it closer.
Right. Especially if McCaffrey is out. If he's certainly out, that should be lower.
If they rule McCaffrey out, does that? I mean,
it would drop to 6 at least. Probably more. If it's McCaffrey and Debo, probably to 4, maybe even lower. But I think they're figuring that one or both will play. Yeah.
Like, if those guys don't play, like, on the road, I mean, 7 points is a lot on the road. I mean, I know Jefferson's also out, but.
Yeah, Vikings are mostly uninjured.
What if like Thursday or Friday gets confirmed? Everyone's playing.
Well, it opened 7.5. It was 7.5, so I think it'll go to at least 7.5 or 8 if everyone's in, including Trent Williams.
That's a huge number, even if they're healthy.
Yeah. I mean, they were favored only by 3.5 at the start of the week last week going into Cleveland. It got to 10 because it was like the Niners are healthy, Watson's out. Like this year, this week, if it goes the other way, if it's like, hey, the Vikings' only player they're missing is Jefferson, and the Niners are missing, say, McCaffrey and Debo and Williams, which is not going to happen. But say that did happen, I still think it probably only gets to 4.
I wonder if Dre Greenlaw played. He missed Cleveland, and they missed him.
As long as Warner's there, we're not going to score a lot of points. That's all I'll say.
I love Fred Warner, but Dre Greenlaw's damn good. Batman and Robin. He's a pretty damn good Robin.
Yes, he is.
He would start for
God,
teams in the league.
I would take him right now, and I like Jordan Hicks, but I would take Greenlaw all day. All right, there they are. The You Like That picks for Week 7 in the NFL. We're 17-11-2 so far in 2023, trying to keep the winning ways going and keep that ROI at a robust 40+%. Buffalo at New England, we're taking the under 42.5. Detroit at Baltimore, we're taking the over 42. Giants hosting Washington, catching 2 points. We'll take them. Green Bay -1 at the lowly Denver Broncos. We'll take that. And then my Minnesota Vikings +7 at home in the Pod Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. There are your 5 You Like That picks of the week. Joey, it's time for your Feels Great, baby. Your wildest take you feel best about currently. You've been harping on Detroit all year, but you just want to hammer it home. You're just like, there's a couple teams in this league that you've seen all you need to see. You're a believer.
Yeah, my take this week, I feel great about Houston and Detroit being pretty damn good, especially Detroit. I'm not going to say it's a lock, but I think it's going to be really tough to see someone other than Detroit win the 1 seed or get the 1 seed in the NFC. I mean, I think they're really good to begin with. I think they can beat good teams. We'll see this week. I think it's a big test. My take next week might change if they go to Baltimore and just get rolled. But I love Detroit and Houston. I really like Houston. I'm excited for them to keep going. I know Jacksonville's
it's been a while since we had a quarterback come into the league in year 1 and immediately be like a guy, like immediately. And Stroud is that guy.
Yeah, his numbers are off the charts. He seems like a great kid. I mean, he's super talented. He doesn't have a whole lot around him. Maybe we just don't know about that yet. But the Texans are really good, and we're a big D'Amico Ryans podcast, and I think they're really good. I think they're really good. Their schedule is not that difficult.
I'm
looking at it now. They got Carolina this week, Tampa, Cincinnati, Arizona, Jaguars, Denver, Jets. They finish up with Titans, Browns, Titans, Colts.
not exactly a murderer's row.
They're right there.
The
They're
path
right
is there. 10-7 is there. They can do it with Stroud, with the way he's playing. By the way, that his former Niner offensive assistant Bobby Slowick running the offense there, running the Kyle Shanahan offense basically.
Yeah, I mean the only negative thing you could say about D'Amico Ryans is he might lose a lot of coordinators. I mean, just if Bobby, I mean, I'm not saying he gets a head coach next year. He probably should, have to do it another couple of years. But, yeah, I mean, their offense. I mean, they don't have a whole lot of guys.
Not exactly. Not a lot of dudes, but they're just playing so well.
I mean, I'm shocked. I'm shocked because I wasn't a Stroud guy coming out of college, and I mean, he looks like the runaway rookie of the year.
And just a perfect 2023 prototypical NFL quarterback. He looks calm back there. The ball comes out with zip every time. He's only turned the ball over once all season.
It's crazy because his receivers in college probably are better than the ones he has now.
By a lot, too. Like, you have possible Hall of Famers that he was playing with in college.
And, that was a big knock on him for me. Is like every Ohio State guy comes out and it's like their talent gets worse because, that's what I've heard about. Like Purdy is like every game he ever played in college, he was the worst. Like his team was worse talent wise than the other team. And it's like, okay, cool. We go to the Niners. Like, look at all these cool pieces. Like, I'm going to be better. And it's like, you get the Ohio State guys, you get the Alabama guys, and they're like, okay.
Yeah. Like Bryce Young's
like, yikes. Yeah. Where's like Jerry Jeudy? Where's like Henry Ruggs? Well, we know where he is. Where's Jameson Williams? Like, I mean, even Joe Burrow. I know I saw one guy say it. This guy, I don't know who it was. I can't remember. He's like, hot take. He's like, is Joe Burrow a product of his like receivers? Like he's always had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson at LSU. Now he's got Chase. He got T Higgins. I mean, I think that's a pretty extreme take. But yeah, CJ Stroud's like, yeah, no problem. I'm throwing to like a
57-year-old Robert Woods. Yeah,
I'm throwing to that Dell kid.
Yeah, Collins, Dalton Schultz.
Collins.
Yeah, not exactly a murderer's row, but he's been so good. I think looking back, obviously he would have gone number 1 overall. I think if we knew what we know now, I think the Bears wouldn't have traded that pick, and they would have taken Stroud, and they would have said, "Hey, Justin Fields, figure it out."
Justin Fields replaces Justin Fields.
The first Ohio State quarterback to pan out.
Carolina did all that, took Bryce Young, and then this guy picked the next pick. Is just like, you just got to be like
setting them back a year. So that's your feels great, baby. You feel even better about Detroit as the number 1 seed in the NFC and Houston as a playoff team coming out of the AFC. Let's close the pod. What happened this week outside of the NFL? Well, you're a dad and things are very challenging. We were talking about it before the pod. Being a parent is really freaking hard. The floor is yours, Joey.
If my wife Kayla's listening, which hopefully she is, but probably not. She got better things to do. It's way harder for her. I don't want her to get mad. I want her to say like, "What do you even do?" But been a couple times lately that I'm left alone with the little big man, and this shit is hard. Really difficult. It's very stressful. She handles it way better than I do. She was born to do this. I was not. I was born to be maybe I'm a disciplinarian. Maybe that'll be me when I get older. I don't know. But like, this whole like burping them and spitting up 24/7 when I'm the only one here. It's different when he spits up and like, Kayla's like in the kitchen or something, and I could be like, okay, if like shit gets really bad, like she's right there. But like she goes to like work she's not going back to work yet, but I think about that in a month or two. But this time she's been like at the store, movies, whatever. I'm like, oh man, dude, we got like 4 hours, just you and me. Like, I'm gonna need you to like keep it together. Like, yeah, but I mean, it's pretty cool when like he's really starting to be like responsive, and that's been the coolest thing because as the dad, I needed that. Because every second he's alive, he's just like, oh my God, like I'm hungry and where's mom? I'm hungry, where's mom? Like all this stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool. And it's just like, There was a time it really felt like every time I held him, he cried, and then as soon as I gave him to Kayla, he's like, and I'd just be like, "This."
You're like,
sucks.
hey, you're half me too,
I
dude.
just feel like this sucks. Like legitimately, like Kayla's like, "Oh, he loves you. You're his dad. Like, like it's okay." I'm like, "You don't get it. Like this is not like my life is totally upside down because this guy and he doesn't even want to be around me." I'm just like, this is difficult.
But you've been left alone with him for a few hours, and you're like, oh my god, what the hell
Yeah,
am I gonna
but like
do?
the last time I telling you, he spit up a lot. But like he more than ever was like, I'd be like talking to him, be like even there's sometimes like watching football with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd turn him to the TV, like hold him and be like, what's that? Like, what should they do? It's like 3rd and 6. What should they do? And he'll give like one of these like, huh. Like he's enjoying it. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I get it. I get why people have these things. Or like, yeah, he falls asleep on me sometimes and then just like leave like his head on my shoulder and like and he'll give he'll like his mouth open and then he'll like give a little crack like a sigh. And it's just like, okay. Okay. All right, bud. I get it. You're cute.
But then other times you're like, oh my god, just please be okay. Like, please stop throwing this.
There's so much worry. Like, oh, like even there's even some nights like Kayla will be making dinner, right? And I'll be doing something else. Like that's the hardest part. Is like they have to be watched like 24/7. Like that's the
Right.
thing that just gets underrated is like, oh, I'm gonna go to like the bathroom, like, oh, I'm gonna go to the garage, like do something real quick. And it's like he'll be like, where are you? Like, what happened? Like no one's watching him. I'm like, it was like a minute. It was like a minute. And one night she was in the kitchen and I was in the room like kind of organizing some of my hats. And
As you do.
yeah, I was just like I was like looking all like, oh, I bought a shitload of hats. Like because they all fell down. And she's like, Joey, and she when like your wife calls your name, especially when it's your first name.
Yeah, you're like, oh boy.
And it's like the tone, like she's not mad, like it's worse. Like she's not mad at you because it's like you can tell the name, like, oh, Eric, like she's mad, like, okay, like I'm used to like her being mad. What I'm not used to is like her calling my name like Joey,
like worried.
like exactly
Yeah.
like no one's watching him and he's like eating a pen and he's like, that didn't happen. But like just like that's what I hear.
Yeah.
Right. So she says to me like Joey, and I'm like, I know I'm not watching. She told me like I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna go to the closet really quick. Like he's in his little like bouncer thing, so
Yeah.
he's tied in. Like he's not going anywhere. You're not doing it. But like these babies, like they could like something goes down the wrong pipe, they can like choke and can't breathe, or like if he's not like all strapped in, he could roll over and just suffocate himself on a pillow because he doesn't roll over yet. He's not his neck's really strong, but he's like he doesn't like pumping iron. His arms, he doesn't want to use them. He's all like legs. But like when he's on his stomach, we'll do like tummy time, and I'm like, okay, bud, you got to get up. Let's go. Stop, drop, and roll. He's like, he's like, I'm not doing it. Yeah. So she's like, Joey, like, I'm like, oh, like literally, I come running in, like, and as I'm running in, like, she knows it too by the way she said my name. She's like, nothing's wrong. Nothing, because I come in like being like anxious. I come in like I'm predicting like this dude's swallowed like a marble, like he's choking. His face is purple, like it is go time. And like it ended up being like, oh, when I put the dishes away, like I put it too far back and she's short, she can't reach it. She's like, you just get this for me. But like I come storming and like he just ate a knife.
Yeah, you're like, what fresh hell have I just walked into? And it's like, oh, can you actually reach a plate for me? Like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's like, oh, or like just anything too. Like recent, I don't know why, but recently she has snuck up on me in the house, like not like trying to be like mean or like scare me or anything. Like the other day, she's like, and she was like, Joey, like I literally turned around like, oh my God, like don't do that again. Like
your house is pretty big too. I'm sure sometimes you're like, I'm alone over here. Oh my God.
Like it's the thing is like, it's I can't believe you say here. You couldn't hear. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
it's wild.
yeah, I mean, I
Everything is hard.
can't wait to meet the little guy. But I mean, you're telling me all these stories. You're like, man, every day is just like I got to be at 100%, or I'm going to be just terrified. Like the stakes are high with this little guy.
Yeah,
You got to give 100% every day,
like,
game in, game out.
And that's not even like what Caleb's got to give 200%. Feels like sometimes, like just up every morning. I do. It makes me love my mom more.
You're like
you did this for me.
You're like, how did you do that? It's unbelievable. Yeah, that's why
I
your
saw
fantasy
what
team name is Luke. I am your father.
Yeah, I'm not even a Star Wars guy. Like I've never even really seen those movies. I think I've seen one, but it wasn't like my choice. I don't have anything against them. I've never been like a.
I've seen all of them 10, 15 times each. I am
I'm
a Star
really.
Wars
I've
junkie.
never been like a fantasy or like animated person. Like my favorite type of comedy is like
The
sitcoms.
Hangover. Yeah.
Yeah, like
yeah.
like that, but like TV shows. Like I love my favorite TV show of all time is King of Queens, and I loved How I Met Your Mother, like the sitcom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like Simpsons or like even SpongeBob. I never really got into I'm like it's not real to me.
Not even Star Wars. Wow, devastating.
No, I've never seen any Harry Potter. I've never seen any Lord of the Rings. I've never seen
Star Trek, any of that shit.
No, never watched. But even like the popular, like I've never watched. Actually, I've seen some episodes of Game of Thrones because Kayla was into it, but like I've never turned it on myself.
What about the Marvel movies?
I've only gone to them if like somebody wanted like no.
Wow. See, like, this is a man who's dedicated to sports, folks.
I never like I would much rather go to a Will Ferrell like comedy movie or some comedy movie than like an action movie like that. My things are like I love comedies like which they don't really make like they used to anymore, or I love like war movies. Like
I've been watching. I just finished rewatching Band of Brothers. That is, oh my god, it's the best on Netflix now. I'm gonna watch The Pacific next. Like those have been awesome because we're kind of in that time where when it's not.
Yeah, now I don't see. Now I'm like I don't know, like shit, like just coming, like oh shit, like damn, like am I prepared?
You're like yeah, thank God the draft is only for 18 to 25-year-olds and we're old farts now.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about that for like a split second. Like, am I?
Like I'm pretty sure I'm over the limit, right? You're like
I can't go, right? Oh, thank God. Thank God I'm so old.
I've
seen so many things like on YouTube or like Kayla showed me like on TikTok. Like if Gen Z people have to go to war.
Oh yeah. God help us all.
That is a TV show.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, oh, what's up, bunker life?
They're doing some TikTok dance while there's like an enemy.
Yeah,
got the sniper, looking at.
You see a jet, like fighter jet, come over, and they're just like,
God help us all. All right, let's wrap it up. Good week. Big week of football coming next week. I think last week. I
saw what you had on the Google Doc to start. We could. I like those topics. Maybe we'll do those next week.
Yeah, we'll save it for next week because next week the NBA starts in full, and I kind of want to save it for then. I was just going to want to talk about the devaluation of the regular season in the non-NFL sports, but we'll talk about that next week.
Again, like we're pretty much out of time, but I really thought about it. I thought my baseball idea was kind of genius. I'm not going to lie.
I mean, I want to float it to people, but obviously there's no chance of it ever happening because the owners are so greedy. But like, make the season like 80 games, man.
You have to think long term. Like you have to take a couple steps back to take steps forward.
Yes.
You're going nowhere right now.
Yeah. Your product is ass.
You have to get people invested in the sport. Mm-hmm. Like forget buying, like they're trying to accumulate money by as many games as possible going. What you need is less games and more interest.
Absolutely. And they'll never see the forest for the trees. Those guys are just so far gone, including.
My biggest point was finish this shit before football starts.
Yeah, nobody's watching baseball in October, especially if it's the Phillies against the Diamondbacks and the Astros against the Rangers. Nobody is watching that. Like, I am one of the biggest baseball fans that MLB had for decades, and now like it doesn't even enter my mind to watch one of those games start to finish. Like we'll get into that more next week when we talk about the start of the NBA, the NHL, and then Major League Baseball reaching the World Series.
Are the Texas Rangers like 7-0 this playoff?
They are 7-0, and they've never won the World Series, so they're the only team left that hasn't won one yet. So
good.
Yeah, we'll see if
take the Astros down.
Take the Astros out, and then I'll be rooting for whoever comes out of the NL because I like the A's having 9
Might be
World
an Arizona
Series.
Diamondbacks fan when the A's move. I don't know. They're AAA teams in Reno. You know, my family. I don't know. Might be a Diamondbacks guy.
Yeah, and I will be a fan of every other sport but baseball. Thanks, Rob Manfred. All right,
well,
folks.
I'll be that too. I'll be like, but if I have to watch baseball,
I guess I'll root for some team that's close by. Yeah, no way, not a chance. That's it, folks. That's the podcast for this week. Thanks everybody for listening and subscribing and commenting on YouTube. We appreciate every time anybody shoots us a text saying, "Hey, where's the pod this week?" Like, love it, appreciate it. We'll be back again next week for another pod to recap the first ever Pod Bowl Vikings-Niners, and we will see you then.